Finance, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion is called to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Here.
Present.
Here.
Present.
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 All right, we always do guests first, and the first guest to be Boron, Project Boron, and if they can join us at the table. I believe anybody associated with that project, if they could join us. This is ordinance number 888-2022, as amended by Council Members Starr, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to repeal ordinance number 997-2021, passed November 29, 2021, relating to a tax increment financing agreement with Project Boron LLC for the Orlando Bacon Company expansion project, authorizing the Director of Economic Development to enter into a tax increment financing agreement with Project Boron LLC or its designee to assist with the financing of the Orlando Baking Company expansion project to be located along the Opportunity Corridor, to provide for payments to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and to declare certain improvements to real property to be a public purpose. And I'll read the amendments. Several amendments on this as well. I'll read them, and there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. In number 1, in the title, line 2, strike, repeal, and insert, amend the third whereas clause and sections 1, 2, and 3. In the second whereas clause, line 4, strike, repealed, and insert, amended. In the fourth, number 3, in the fourth whereas clause, line 3, strike the real property and insert depicted and defined in Exhibit A attached hereto the real property, with each parcel comprising the real property being referred to individually as a parcel, as documented by conveyance limited warranty deed from the city to Project Boron LLC redeveloper. Recorded June 24, 2022, deed number 202-206-240-556. Number 4, in the sixth whereas clause, line 2, after taxation, insert on a parcel by parcel basis. 5, in the ninth whereas clause, line 1, after intent to insert, pass this ordinance, and number 6, strike sections 1, 2, and 4 in their entirety and insert Section 1, that the third whereas clause in sections 1, 2, and 3 of ordinance number 997-2021 passed November 29, 2021 are amended to read as follows. Whereas the real property to be developed in accordance with the Cleveland 2020 citywide plan, a copy of which is placed in file number 888-2022A, which also contains a full list of parcels, map, and legal descriptions, and Section 1, that pursuant to and in accordance with revised code Section 5709.41, this council hereby finds and determines that 100% of the increase in assessed value of each parcel comprising the real property, which increase in assessed value is also hereinafter referred to as the improvement as defined in TIF statutes subsequent to the acquisition of such parcel by the city, is hereby declared to be a public purpose. Number 2, Section 2, that 100% of the improvement is declared exempt from real property taxation for a period of 30 years effective and commencing on a parcel by parcel basis. The first year the improvement is reflected on the tax duplicate for such parcel ending on the earlier of A, 30 years after such exemption commenced, or B, the date on which the city can no longer require service payments in lieu of taxes, all in accordance with the requirements of the revised code, and that in no event shall the exemption period extend beyond 2025. The terms of the agreement, which shall not be materially changed without further legislative action by council, which will be as follows. Project, Orlando Baking Company expansion. Developer, Orlando Baking Company, Weston Development. Ward 5. The Orlando Baking Company has been operating in the central neighborhood for decades, employing over 300 at their current facility. They have been expanding in place for years and are bursting at the seams. One of their largest needs is a commercial-grade freezer space. Cold storage is an extreme shortage throughout the region. Orlando currently leases space in Columbus, and one company looking at opportunities in the region could not find freezer space closer than Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. To address their immediate need, Orlando has contracted with Weston to suggest a public refrigerated warehouse on the site immediately south of them across the Opportunity Corridor. The initial commercial freezer will be approximately 150,000 square feet of development, of which Orlando will operate in about 50,000 square feet, and the remainder will be leased to commercial food companies in and around Cleveland. As a shared warehouse, shipping can be pooled with products from multiple companies shipped to the same site, either as a final destination or to a centralized warehouse, for example, a grocery warehouse within a market. This cold storage development will benefit not only Orlando, but many of Cleveland's existing food manufacturers, as well as creating a competitive advantage for the attraction of other food-related businesses in and around the corridor. This is the type of catalytic, large footprint commercial development that is needed the city and state. Purpose of legislation: amend existing 30-year non-school TIF ordinance, estimated economic impact, retention of over 300 existing jobs at the Orlando Baking Company, and a $16 million payroll. Create 20 additional jobs, estimated sources and uses, acquisition and soft costs, $7 million, senior loan, including TIF, $18,450,000. Site preparation, $2.5 million. Jobs Ohio grant sources, $3 million. Uses, construction, Shell, $12.5 million. NDP grant, $50,000. Construction, freezer build-out, $9.5 million. Equity is the source, and that would be $10 million. Total uses, $31.5 million. Total sources, $31.5. Estimated TIF value, $2.242,240,000. Community benefits, Chapter 187, Chapter 188, Workforce Development Agreement apply. Section 3, that under Section 5709.41 of the revised code, developer as owner of the real property and all subsequent owners of the real property shall make service payments for a period of 30 years in lieu of the exempt real property taxes to Cuyahoga County Fiscal Officer or Treasurer or designee. The amounts shall be changed and collected in the same manner, and shall be in an amount not less than the taxes that would have been paid had the improvements not been exempt from taxation. Section 2, that the existing third whereas clause in sections 1, 2, and 3 of ordinance number 997-2027 passed November 29, 2021 are repealed. Number 7, renumbering sections 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 to new section number 3, Section 4, Section 5, Section 6, Section 7, and Section 8. This was done on 4/3/24 by Steve Martinick, Assistant Director of Law. Those are the amendments read into record. Director, you have the floor, or Chiefs, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council President, members of the committee. I am joined here today by Director Tyson Mitchell from the Office of Equal Opportunity, as well as Conrad Metz from our department. Mr. Rob Navy from
Please speak in the microphone so that
Mr. Rob
everybody
Navy from Weston Development was not able to join us today. As you noted in your opening comments, this is a project that's roots trace back well to 2020. This was absolutely a critical project in keeping Orlando Baking Company in the city of Cleveland. As noted, a cold storage facility is critical. You know, I've told you before here at this table that food production is a place that I feel like we can win. As noted, people were traveling as far as Columbus to be able to use a facility like this. 50% of this facility, which is now constructed, is being used by Orlando, right? But this is a facility that is going to benefit many other businesses in the city of Cleveland. I think what what is a little bit unique about this situation, we are talking about an amendment to an existing ordinance, right? This project, which started, I believe, roots back to 2020, legislation was passed in 2021. There were some parcels misidentified in there. And then this ordinance was introduced in, I believe, August of 2022. Again, so all this predates this administration and certainly predates my time here. I think what is a little bit unique about where we are today, this project, which was moving forward under the auspices that this had been taken care of, did not do a very good job, to be very frank, in meeting their OEO requirements. That led to some pretty intense conversations with the developer, with our offices, and trying to figure out the right path forward here. Again, by nature of when this TIF was passed, they were not subject to a community benefits agreement. But I think that we all felt, because of where they landed on their Office of Equal Opportunity numbers, that it made sense to implement one as if this was the new ordinance. So with that, Director Mitchell has done a lot of work on this with both the developer and our office, and getting a community benefits agreement that we feel works for this project, works for the council person, and that we are all happy with. And I will hand it over to Director Mitchell to talk more about what is in that package.
All right, thank you, thank you. We've received Boron's community benefits proposal, and we are satisfied that it's robust. Just to give you a few examples, they are going to agree to a $100,307 penalty for OEO requirements. So that's there. They are also paying $100,000 over a 5-year period into home rehab in the wards or city of Cleveland to be a part of that. They are also, any upside of the TIF that they may experience, 25% of that contribution will come back to the city of Cleveland. They have also agreed to put residents, 5 to 10 city of Cleveland residents, through a supply chain logistics technology warehouse program to learn to be a part of that, that cold storage facility. They are also doing some in-kind work and some remodeling assistance in the ward. Lastly, they will seek 3 development partnerships with proteges around the city who want to be emerging developers. So they are good with developing the commercial warehouse space. So they are going to seek to help some developers, emerging developers, in that vein. So we are satisfied that that these are robust community benefits.
All right. Anything else? Our guests want to make any comments? Okay. Before I go to my colleagues, I do want to pivot to the council person of that area on record. I know he's worked very closely with you guys to put this together. So, Councilman Richard Starr.
Thank you, Council President. And seat so low. This must be the broken seat. This is why it's at the end of the table. Y'all play too much. No, definitely this project, we call Project Boron. I believe since I got into council, the last 28 months, I've been going back and forth with Weston as well as the developers. Orlando Bread was going to be the ones in there. There are not. We have NORAM, which is a cold storage facility that is the, I think, 3rd or 4th generation cold storage facility. I actually got a chance to tour the facility maybe a couple weeks ago to get an understanding, a sense of what they're trying to do and establish. One of the things that was very big for me is that they have brought opportunities from people who started from an entry level and worked their way up into into the cold storage to possibly being managers. They actually have one who's managing it has relocated back home to her family to be able to run this facility. So they show commitment to wanting to be in the community, help in the community, and then do some investments. So what brings us here today is, from what you read, Council President, when this project went on to fold, there were some goals that we had from the OEI standpoint, from the MBE, as Cleveland small businesses as well. And when I looked at some of the things, when I talked to OEO, it was showing that they didn't fulfill all of their goals. And when they didn't fulfill all their goals and having a shortage, we started to have different dialogue and conversation. Because I am a true believer, if we're going to use taxpayer dollars, then we have to invest in the city of Cleveland, utilizing those dollars, specifically in Ward 5, as well as in the rest of the parts of the Cleveland. So working with them, they needed to have some amendments done to this TIF to add those additional parcels that they bought to secure the project. And then we was able to sit down, as well as through the chair how Director Tyson Mitchell explained, they're going to do some great things. Beat the Streets program over in North Broadway of Ward 5 will be getting some different support to help them get their facility up and running, as well as a donation. They also are committed to putting $100,000 for the first 5 years back into the community, so we can be able to utilize those funds for different purposes in Ward 5. I have also worked with the Cuyahoga County Land Bank to be able to help us add additional funding so we can do some different things. I know home repairs is a huge issue in Ward 5, so we can be able to start creating a program that can assist with that. But then also when you look at the overall project, it was way that you see that we said, how do we become proactive? So this was the project that has lined me up to be able to understand the best usage of a community benefits package, in which we now have a gold standard on additional projects that we've done in Ward 5. And I believe working with West End and working with Galen, as well as other individuals, we really took a real good deep dive. We sat down, we said, hey, this is where we're not seeing eye to eye at. How can we get to a medium? And we was able to do it. Now, I thank you, Council President, and I definitely thank DPS Chairman Anthony Hairston for having those tough conversations with us, as well as Director Tyson Mitchell and his office for understanding that we need to make sure that we are getting something in return. So this community benefits package that you see has been lined up together. I think that comes from the work that we've done together, but also it comes from me being a council member who understood what was going on and also asked the right questions so we can get the answer. And I definitely will reiterate and wrap up, Council President, that it is not a privilege for somebody to do work in the city of Cleveland. They do not get the opportunity from developers to say, you should be thankful that I'm doing work in Cleveland. That doesn't go with us. If they're going to use any taxpayer dollars, they need to uphold their part of the deal and make sure that they are doing something. And as a member of council, as well as all my colleagues, we need to be proactive and making sure we have community benefits packages long before the project gets started get going. Because if we don't do that, we run ourselves with risk where people are doing things that are that's our dishonesty, and they do not care at times. So I am a firm believer. I don't care who you are. It's a privilege that we allow you to do development in our ward. We shouldn't be happy that you come in Cleveland and doing development. It has to be a partnership. And if they're not going to do it the right way, then we should hold them accountable, hold their feet to the fire, and let it be known that they need to do things great. So I am happy that we are here today. I am happy that Boran is there. I've been a supporter of the project from the beginning, but it also has to be something that makes sense. So thank you, Council President. Thank you, Chairman Anthony Hairston, for hearing me out each and every other week when I was complaining, when I was beating the table, when I was blowing his phone up while he was out with the family, when I just kept telling him, like, I'm not for it. But he was able to sit down with me, and we was able to get a community benefits package together afterwards. And now I'm saying we need to have community benefits packages and before projects either start groundbreaking. And it takes council to be able to lead this initiative while working with OEO. So thank you, Council President, and my colleagues.
Thank you. And once again, good job, gold standard on all of this. And I think everybody really appreciates that project. Councilman Mike Polinsky.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues. I appreciate all of the engagement and due diligence that Councilman Starr did on this project. I had just a couple questions for clarification. So originally, it was just going to be Orlando, but now it's Weston, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. And then what is it, a 50-50 partnership or what?
Through the Council President to Councilman Polensek, no, the building is owned by Weston's developer. It is operated by NORAM.
So Orlando will be a tenant?
Orlando is a tenant. NORAM also is an operator and tenant, and then Arlington Valley Farms is in there, Gardner Pies, and they are still seeking more tenants for the facility.
Okay. And then in the course of the response, there was a question about a penalty. Explain the penalty to me.
Yeah. Through the chair to the councilperson, there's a OEO penalty for MBE, FBE participation, CSB. If you fall short of your goals, our administrative code allows, and our contract allows, a penalty to be assessed. So in actuality, the penalty is a little outside of the community benefits agreement. It's something that we would collect as OEO anyway on all our projects.
So that's what I was not clear on. So are they in violation, or that is just a part of the amendments that they would pay that if they were in noncompliance?
Through the chair to the councilperson, they are in violation of Section 188. It is something that they would pay anyway, but we consider it a community benefit because it goes
Okay.
into our equity fund for use in the community.
So is there an are they making a good faith effort to, from this point on, to meet those goals?
Through the chair to the councilperson, yes, they are. And part of the reason the penalty is at that number is because they did make a good faith effort.
Okay.
And so that's the penalty after that.
Okay, and they're working with then Councilman Starr as well to make sure if there are, I'm assuming that's what, is it hiring or is it subcontractors?
Through the chair to the councilperson, it's subcontracting mainly, mostly.
Okay, so I'm assuming, and I'm hoping they're going to be working with Councilman Starr and other Cleveland-based businesses so they can address those issues in the future.
That's correct.
Okay. And my last point to the director is this. We all know that this is, first of all, Orlando's been a long-time resident company in the city of Cleveland, and a lot of us are greatly appreciative of their investment in the city, and I, quite frankly, like their ciabatta bread, okay? So, the other side of the question is, as it pertains to refrigerated space, is the administration aware of all the refrigerated space that the food bank is marketing at this point? To outside
Sorry,
companies as
Through the
well?
chair, Councilman, could you repeat the last portion of that
Are
question?
you aware of the refrigerated space and warehouse capability that's refrigerated the food bank is attempting to market it as well?
Yes,
Okay. So you're aware of what at the resource center?
yes,
All that space in the back?
Yes.
Which is a massive refrigerated area
Yes.
that they're attempting. So I'm hoping if there's any other companies or businesses that can, because they're taking, I don't know if the term is bid, but they are taking proposals from other businesses that would maybe utilize that space. And I'm saying if we can benefit another Cleveland business
yes.
that needs that refrigerated space, I would hope so I would urge you to contact the director out there at the food bank and maybe get how much square footage and what's available and what they're asking, et cetera, et cetera. So again, you have that in your pocket to be able to offer to other businesses that maybe are looking for that in the city of Cleveland. So without further ado, Mr. Chairman, I'm here to support it. Longtime company. I know how hard Councilman Starr's worked on this project. I'm here to support it, and I would move passage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman. Councilman Brian Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to the director, do we know who Orlando's electric supplier is?
Through the chair to the councilperson, I do not.
Oh, I do. Has that conversation been had with Orlando in regards to community benefits at all? And this is something that we're going on a year now talking about
Yep.
in regards to that. So I'm just wondering if this has been talked about as part of a community benefits agreement.
So through the chair to Councilman Casey, I have not had that specific conversation with Orlando. Again, I think this was a little bit of a unique situation and that this was a project that essentially was kind of past the finish line by the time that we got involved. I can tell you that Director Mitchell and myself have had the conversation about CPP as a community benefits. And as we continue to work on the Baker's-Tilly study for the scorecard coming in, that using CPP as your electrical supplier factors into that as well. So again, I look forward to not dealing with so many issues that were kind of left on my desk to kind of move across the finish line, but looking at projects moving forward.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Those are all the questions that I have. I don't see any other questions. Once again, I think that, Director, I know that this was pre the community benefits agreement, but I think once we create a template, it might be something that we could actually say, hey, here's something that council is excited about, okay? All right, thank you so much. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 888-2022, after 20 long months, is passed and will be heard by the rest of the council tonight. Congratulations. All right.
No idea.
Okay, I'm going to ask the people from UCI if they can join us at the table. This is a city planning piece. This is resolution number 321-2024 by council members Conwell, Harrison, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency resolution approving the creation of a new special improvement district in the city by University Circle Incorporated as an existing qualified nonprofit corporation, approving the amendment of the Articles of Incorporation by University Circle Incorporated, creating the Special Improvement District, accepting petitions from owners of property in the proposed district, approving the initial comprehensive services plan for the new district, declaring it necessary to provide police and safety services, providing for an assessment for the cost of such services upon benefited property in the district, and declaring an emergency. And I believe we have Ms. Borders, but who's going to be presenting on the city? Is it going to be Ms. Fields? Okay. Yes, you got it?
Didn't I?
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. Okay, here we go.
And please talk directly into the mics, everyone, so that they can hear.
Sure. Okay, so we're here just requesting approval for UCI's Special Improvement District, which is being created to provide additional police services in the University Circle area. It'll expand the police services and also provide bias-free police training for the police officers in the area. I have the UCI team here with me who will then go into the detail about what they are proposing. So turn it over to them.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, committee president, and members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Kate Borders, and I am the president of University Circle. I've been here for less than a year. So this is my first time engaging in council process here in Cleveland, so thank you. And I appreciate all of your time. I know that you have a lot on your plate, so thank you for hearing us. I am joined today by my team, Alicia Blonsky, our Chief Place Management Officer, our Chief of Police, Tom Wetzel, Mark, who you just heard from, our counsel, Teresa Metcalf-Beasley, and my CFO, Dean Parker. So we will obviously have time for questions if you have questions of any of them. And I just wanted to start by saying our district sits in 3 wards. So we've had the pleasure of working with Council Member Conwell, Council President Griffin, and also Council Member House Jones. And all 3 have been very supportive in getting us here today. So shout out to all of them. So as Marco mentioned, we are here to seek approval of our Special Improvement District. The Special Improvement District will focus solely on our safety and transportation efforts. And so we have a service plan that speaks to all of the work that will be done inside of that. And on top of that, though, I just want to point out that University Circle Incorporated does many things outside of safety and transportation. So a lease department runs up all of our place management efforts where we do advocacy for transit, transportation, moving through the district, accessibility, things like shade, shade canopies, all of that type of work. We also do a lot of community programming. I'm sure many of you have been to some of our events in Wade Oval, and we do a lot of engagement work as well. We're also the convener that brings together the neighborhood with the institutions, and we take great pride in being kind of that base of collaboration. So much work is done outside of the service plan, even though this will just focus on that directly. So I'd like to hand it over to our chief, who can speak to some of the elements within the service plan, and then open it up to questions if anyone has any questions.
Thank you. Chief?
Thank you, Council President.
Oh, taking sense.
Thank you, Council President, members of the committee. I just want to thank you for having the privilege to speak here today. We've done some wonderful things in the police department. We're really excited about all the potential that we have there. We've done a lot of youth outreach. Just today, I was at Mary Bethune School, and we gave Giovanni Hollis we tip our badge to you for academic excellence. That's a regular thing we do with the school, where we do a lot of outreach with them, and we recognize them for academic excellence. We think that's important. So we're really integrated in the schools and with our community. We have what we call a servant's heart culture there we've developed. It's so important to us that it's even etched in stone in the front of our building. Every time our officers come to work, they look at this stone and see what it says, and it's our culture, serving others. We really have put a special emphasis on empathy, so every customer that walks into our building sees that as well, knows right away what they're going to meet, who they're going to meet, that they have public servant guardians that care about them. So that's been really important, and we've really felt good about the work we've done being a force multiplier for the Cleveland Police Department. We work really well with them, and we take a lot off their plate to help them. We take a lot of calls, we're involved in a lot of reports, we put a high visibility. Our 7 frontline cruisers actually drove 56,000 miles in 2023. That's 2 times around the globe. And most of that, probably 95% of it, was involved with just patrol within that 1.219 square mile footprint that we have, which is really small. So we're doing a lot of good things. We're really excited. One of the things on our service plan was to have a crisis intervention specialist co-responder, and we've already put that into place. She was with me today speaking to a group of our security directors. She's doing a fantastic job. She's been put to work already. She's made a difference, so we're excited. So we're just really hitting it hard and making a difference, and I thank you for the support you've given us.
I just want to echo that working with Chief, he came on board 2 weeks before I did, and it's been incredible to have someone with this kind of a heart towards community policing. It is felt by our community, and we hear it all the time. So it's a pleasure to work with him. And just for point of record, I know that there is a threshold of 60% of frontage and 70% of area that we are required to meet. And we're just over 70% of frontage and closing in on 80% of area. So we have met the thresholds required for the Special Improvement District, but I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you. And I know you have other guests here. Did you introduce Ms. Beasley?
I did.
Did? Okay, all right. But I know that Ms. Beasley, former law director here at the City of Cleveland as well, so welcome as well. So just a couple of things that I would like to say, and I'll say this to all of the colleagues. You know, we had some challenges with some things around University Circle Inc., but this is really, how can I put this? I will tell you that what Kate Borders and Tom Wetzel have done in the last 6 months since they have been here have been something that I haven't seen with many organizations. They have really come and embedded themselves in the community, really have changed the culture tremendously, and worked closely with Conwell, myself, and others in the community to really try to change the perception and what we're able to do. So I really just want to commend them because they've really made a lot of steps in order to try to improve the community's relationship with that institution, not just from the police side, but also in general from the institution in itself. So I just want to commend them. This is, we actually already, we're going to do this last year. However, we missed the deadline for several reasons, and that's the reason why we're instituting it. I do want to keep this in mind with everybody as we're looking at this, because I did watch some of the hearing last week. Ladies and gentlemen, we have approximately 50,000 people that come into this area every single day to come and work, play, and other things as well. So when people say, well, you guys are kind of getting the extra, attention, well, we also have extra bodies that come to and from University Circle on a day-to-day basis. That's why we need that extra support. So just want to make sure that everybody understands why this is a critical piece of legislation, and we know that this would enable them to be able to do their work. With that being said, I do have Councilman Conwell, Polensek, Casey. You want to be the anchor? Okay, Polisic, then Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My honorable colleagues, and to everyone that's here from University Circle Incorporated. We have the joint policing agreement in place. Is this having any, what is before us now, does that affect that at all?
No.
So the boundaries aren't changing. What you have agreed to in that document, none of that is changing.
I would stand corrected then to the chair of the council meeting. I think it's slight change in the,
Then what is the slight change?
I think Elise can explain that better.
Elise, could you explain the slight change? It's really like a street that goes and then intrudes into the Cleveland Clinic area.
Well, I think to the chair, through the chair to the councilman, the question is whether this impacts the services of the MOU, and the answer to that is no. The boundary of the SID is slightly different than the boundary set by the MOU, but there are also voluntary payments coming in to fund safety services. So they're two distinct boundaries, if you see that difference.
So within the MOU, what we have agreed to between the city and University Circle Corp, there's no
There's no change
changes
to that.
as it pertains to
No.
the policing operations,
No.
et cetera.
No, and in fact, the service plan does reference the MOU as existing and in place and to be renewed during the term of the SID, since there is not
So then the
overlap.
SID does what from a standpoint of policing?
The SID funds sustainably our safety services.
And prior to this legislation, that was coming out, what, general operations?
It was coming partially from voluntary payments, but there was a substantial deficit in that. And
Okay.
if there's further question there, I can turn it over to our CFO, Dean Parker, to go into more detail. But this SID is really necessary to maintain and support our safety services in the circle and fund them sustainably.
So the partner agencies, property owners, et cetera, within that SID district, they will all pay a percentage toward the operation of the safety portion?
That's correct, based on the formula that, that is within the service plan.
Okay.
And they have been paying voluntarily,
Yes.
the majority of them, but to Elise's point, at a deficit.
So when do you expect that to be complete, the partner agencies, property owners, when do you expect them to all be on board?
Well, we've gotten, if this is approved, it will take effect January 1 of 2025.
Okay, so you have the percentages you need?
Correct.
And that is what, 60?
60 of frontage and 70 of area, and we have over that
Okay.
in both
Okay,
cases. Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, I just want to make sure, because that MOU is very important.
Absolutely,
And,
yes.
and I will say this, my colleagues are very fortunate to have that, because they have, in essence, 3 layers of policing: CPD, University Circle, and then Cleveland Clinic. And I don't know about if, well, I believe University Hospital has a policing, so they're very fortunate. The rest of us don't have that fortunate coverage. Wish we did, but we don't. So I'm hoping as a result of what you're doing, it's going to free up more CPD officers to be able to patrol their sections of the city more frequently and be more visible. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councilman. We have Councilman Brian Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Borders, and we keep hearing that this is expanding. So is the footprint area of, and we keep hearing just safety forces, is the footprint area of University Circle Police expanding? And if so, by how much?
Let you speak to that. It's not. No.
It's not.
No.
No, the footprint of University Circle Safety Forces is not expanding. These are existing safety services that are in University Circle, but as alluded to, are not funded fully. And that is the intention of the SID, is to sustainably fund our safety services.
So individuals without, so you're expanding the SID area.
We don't have an existing SID now.
don't have
We
an
do not.
existing
This is
SID.
the formation of a special improvement district.
Okay, so then how have you been funding it up until now, Mr. Chairman, to Ms.
yes.
Ward or whoever?
Sure. That's back to the conversation around the voluntary payments that the institutions have been paying, as well as, we've been funding it through our own general operating at a deficit.
At a deficit?
Yes.
So now this is creating a SID district, because I just want to understand it. Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Borders, this is creating a SID district so that the dollars raised through the SID district can support your policing,
Correct.
safety and service, whatever you're calling it.
And transportation.
And is that something that that your safety forces do, is transportation?
We have a separate employee who works on transportation initiatives, advocacy, and, work on those types of issues.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Borders, is that transportation because of their interaction with police, or is it like our senior transportation?
It's more like your senior transportation.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's not
they do work-
transportation like University Circle Police is transporting somebody to
No,
the
no, no,
county
no, no,
jail
no,
or
no,
something like
no.
that? Okay.
It's
And-
looking at wayfinding and access and, pedestrian and walkability and that type of.
All right, and then, Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Borders, Mr. Chairman, if I can't ask this question, please correct me. If we could get into what this is going to cost, and does this cost the city of Cleveland anything?
And I'm going to defer to Dean, our CFO, but it does not cost the city of Cleveland anything. This is us funding it ourselves, and the total budget is around 4.5?
4.3.
4.3 million.
And is that just for the police department?
Just for the elements that are within the service plan.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of that transportation piece, and the rest is all police.
Okay, so within, Mr. Chairman and Ms. Borders, within your SID district, you're anticipating or hoping to raise the 4.3 million that will cover the safety and transportation
Correct.
portion of this.
Correct.
And this is paid by whomever's within your SID district.
Yes.
You guys have,
Property owners.
right, exactly. All right, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Conwell.
Thank you very much. I listened to the council president. He mentioned at least 50,000 people travel to University Circle. Well, the police, their job is to protect people that live, work, and travel to University Circle. You have some of the greatest institutions in the world is in University Circle that represent Cleveland. Art Museum, Natural History Museum, Botanical Gardens, University Hospital, Cleveland Clinic, and these people work there, and their payroll tax dollars go to the city of Cleveland. Go to the city of Cleveland so that we can pay for CPD police, have roads and all kind of quality of life that benefit the rest of the city of Cleveland. Since Kate Borders have been there at University Circle, she walks, matter of fact, you walked the neighborhood with me. Tom is also doing community policing. They get out and they walk the community. They protect the residents that live, work, and travel through University Circle. As you know, last year, I requested for council to pull this legislation. But you guys have done a remarkable job. You go to neighbors, you talk with the residents, not one person, but you talk with the residents, which is very, very important. Tom, you're always walking the neighborhood, talking with the residents, because you gotta be connected with them, and you guys are doing that. So I appreciate it 100%, and I ask this city council to support this legislation. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Councilman. And once again, I just want to say kudos. Tom used to be a police chief in Richmond Heights, and I talked to Mary Thomas, my good friend, my very good friend. She was crazy about you, and you're doing a good job in our neighborhood, too. And Kate, welcome. Looking forward to continue to working with you, okay? And Elise did a great job filling in for everybody.
This
Wow.
whole team is incredible.
It was a lot of transition going on,
Yeah.
so. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 321-2024 stands approved, will be heard tonight. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys, okay? Told you that wasn't that bad, was it?
It was fun.
All right, good.
Been through much.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Beasley. All right. Next up is ordinance number 341-2024 as amended by council members McCormick, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the director of city planning to accept a grant from the Project for Public Spaces for the West 29th Street Open Street Program, determining the method of making the public improvement of installing one or more pedestrian plazas along with along West 29th Street, authorizing the Director of City Planning or appropriate director to enter into one or more public improvement contracts, authorizing other contracts, and applying for and accepting gifts, grants, or services from public and private entities needed to implement the grant. Assistant Director Marker Fields. And let me read the amendment. The amendment proffered is that there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. Number 1, in Section 5 at the end, add the following, that the Director of City Planning shall notify the members of council through its clerk of any additional gifts, grants, or services received by other public or private entities for the purpose described in this ordinance. Number 2, in Section 14, line 3, after spaces, strike the comma and insert "and." In line 4, after entities, strike "and from" and any other funds approved by the Director of Finance, and insert a period. Assistant Director Marker Fields.
There was a presentation that was.
Did we get a presentation? It may be on tablets.
If not,
Can we get I apologize, if I knew you had a presentation, I would have had to set it up for you.
that's a very short presentation, so if we can't get to it, I can just.
Can we pull it up? This is ordinance number 341-2024. I gotta see where mine is at. All right, and this is 341. Really shortcuts. Can't find it. Good. Huh? She does. But at least headaches. It's at least about the headaches. All right, we ready?
All right, yep.
All right.
So we're here today just to ask for approval to accept a $100,000 grant that was awarded to us for the design, community engagement, and supply and purchase and installation of one or more pedestrian. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I'll start over. So we're here to request approval for the acceptance of an award of $100,000. I'm sorry, yeah, $100,000 for the design, community engagement, and supply and purchase and installation of one or more pedestrian plazas on West 29th Street. We are trying to fulfill one of the desires of the mayor, which is to have a greater network of public spaces and streets for people of all ages and abilities. We've been working with Callie on this since last year to find spaces where we could create open street programs such as this. We're looking at West 29th. The grant is, again, for the physical improvement of the area around West 29th and to allow for the use of open space development within that area. We have received 9 letters of support in the area from area residents and businesses who are interested in seeing this happen, one of which is Councilman McCormick. The award was announced on February 7th, and we will be having a community meeting next Saturday, engaging the residents around this. We've already had one so far, where we've been able to talk to the residents, and residents have, there were some concerns about parking, but they are, but a lot of the residents who are in the area are very interested in seeing this happen. This slide right here just shows an example of some of the, just of some of the things that could be done in the area. Basically, makes it a place that is lively night and day, something that's safe for all residents. It eliminates traffic, so you don't have to worry about those interactions in the area, and really allows for a more lively area. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced, but I know East Fourth is one example. So that's one where you can see that, you know, it adds a lot of vitality to the area, but it's something that can happen throughout our neighborhoods. And really just makes it a safe place for people to engage. Let me see. Okay. And so our engagement process, as I said, has begun already. Started in March. We started some early engagement. Again, some of the residents were concerned about traffic, and not traffic, but parking, and so we will try to address that through the engagement process as we move forward. We have the meeting coming up this Saturday, and we've already received 20 to 30 people who want to engage in the focus groups and neighborhood workshops that we have. We also have sent out emails to people who have already participated, as well as OCI sending out notices to the block clubs, and we are in the process now of also distributing flyers specifically to the people who live in that area, hand delivering flyers to their homes, so that we make sure that they are aware of what is happening and can come and engage with us on that. And then in let's see, May through June of 2024, we'll be programming and developing a concept with the residents. And in July, there will be the fund disbursement by Project for Public Spaces. July through October will be the implementation and technical assistance. So that is, did you have anything to add, Kelly?
Okay, so we'll go to questions, and I always start out with, do you want to go first or last, Councilmember McCormick?
I'm fine going first, Chair.
Okay.
No, thank you, Chair. I have nothing else to add. I just, as I've said to the planning the whole time, making sure that we're engaged in the community is critical here. There are certain people that love this project, certain people that hate it, but what's important is that we engage the community, and I think this is a part of the process in setting up the opportunity to do that. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Palencic.
Mr. Chairman, my honorable colleagues, to the whoever can answer from the administration, the project for public spaces, who are they and what are they?
To the councilman through the chair, they're a nonprofit organization that makes grants to communities to do projects like this, and is generally focused on creating more vibrant public spaces in communities across the country.
Okay, so it's a statewide organization, or?
I believe it's a national organization.
Okay, so how would we learn more about that, or who could supply us information on that?
We'd be happy to send you a
Okay.
link to their website.
Okay, I'd appreciate that, because I have not heard of them before. And so are there stipulations with this? Does there have to be a match or anything like that?
There is no match to the grant. The funding goes toward a community process to co-design what will be installed, and then to rapid implementation.
So it's for design, not bricks and mortar?
It's for both planning, design, and implementation. Of course, within the $100,000 cap, which, as we know, only goes so far.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're actually doing bricks and mortar and infrastructure or purchasing appurtenances, doesn't seem like a whole lot, but I guess it's a start.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Well,
think the ordinance does allow for additional funding to be accepted.
Okay. Well, whatever you could supply us, I certainly would appreciate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support the
right.
legislation.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 341-2024 as amended stands approved. Please sign on. I'm going now to capital projects. And the first capital project is ordinance number 108-2024 by council members McCormick, Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the director of capital projects to execute a deed of easement granting to adjacent property owners, their successors, and assigns certain easement rights in property located in the Flats East Bank development area and declaring that easement rights granted are not needed for the public's use. Chief Director.
Good afternoon. We have three real estate ordinances here, and Commissioner DeGennaro is going to handle the review of each of these. The first one relates to the Flats East Bank project, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner.
Thank you. Ordinance 108-2024 authorizes the city to grant an access easement to property owners in the flats. The city owns property located off of Main Avenue that provides access to the flats development area. And in 2015, the city entered into a lease agreement with Flats Management LLC for the construction of a roadway. Because of Ohio EPA and regional sewer regulations, the roadway had to be constructed out of pervious pavers, which, because they're very maintenance intensive, the city was not able to, they're not to city standards, the roadway that is, and so the city was not able to accept a dedication of the roadway. The abutting property owners are now requesting a non-exclusive permanent access easement because they're basically landlocked because the roadway's not dedicated. So this, every time the properties change hands or there's refinance, there's a title issue that comes up because of the roadway not being dedicated. So this would eliminate that issue going forward.
Okay, I believe this is in Councilman McCormick's ward. Councilman McCormick, did you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Per usual, the commissioner did a great job describing this. Thank you.
Great. Councilman Hairston and Councilman Bishop, do you approve of this legislation?
Yes, Mr. President, we vetted this in the municipal services, and we fully support this.
Thank you. Councilman Hairston.
We also heard in DPS, so we fully support. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 108-2024 stands approved. Please sign on. All right, next one is ordinance number 111-2024 by council members Kelly, Bishop, Hairston, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the mayor and commissioner of purchases and supplies to sell certain city-owned property no longer needed for the city's public use located on West 130th Street, 3945 West 130th Properties LLC and/or its designee for the purposes of redevelopment. Director or Chief.
Mr. Chairman, so this is for the sale of property at appraised value. It is in Ward 11. We do have the support of the councilman, and with that, I'll hand it over to the commissioner.
Thank you. So the city owns this vacant parcel on the on West 130th Street between I-71 and Brookline Avenue. The property was acquired for right-of-way purposes, and there is an owner, a gas station owner to the north. He owns a gas station and a convenience store, and he has requested to purchase this property from the city. He wishes to expand his business and construct 6 EV charging stations on the vacant city parcel, along with other improvements, including landscaping, fencing, and signage. The city property is about 1/10 of an acre. It's 40 by 108 feet in size. Sale of the land will put it back into productive reuse. The land will be sold at appraised value of $8,400. And I also want to note that we've had a number of requests to purchase this property over the years, and I think one of the things that MOCAP does well is to vet these requests and not just jump at the first proposal that comes along to make sure there's a net benefit to the city, which in this case, to the neighborhood, which in this case I think there is. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Hairston, Councilman Bishop.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we vetted this piece of legislation also, and we fully support it for passage.
Councilman Hairston.
We did here in DPS as well, and we passed it out. But I do have one question through the chair. What happens if they don't put charging stations as they say they are once we sell them the property? Have we considered that?
Through the chair to the councilman, we will place a restriction in the deed to ensure that it gets developed per the proposed.
Got it, just because you don't want to bait and switch, and then the councilman is running around and say, wait a minute, I supported this and you did something else. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And those deed restrictions work. I had a couple on buildings over in our area which help prevent them from alcohol and other things. So you can really do a lot with deed restrictions. All right. Seeing no other questions. Oh, Councilman Pulisic.
Just had a question, unless maybe you cannot answer. Do we know at this point how many charging stations there are in the city at this point?
Through the chairman, Councilman, I do not know that number, but I know that Director O'Keefe does.
Oh, yeah?
That is something that we you know, as a mayor's initiative and generally we support growing that. And I know that NOACA has a program as well where they're installing a lot more EV charging stations. So long story short, I don't have that number, but we can get that to you. I'm sure.
She would have that by ward?
We could probably break it down by ward.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I'll make that request to the chair if we could have that broken down, EV charging stations by ward. Thank you.
Mr. Tytron, you have that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman McCormick.
On that point, Chair, the city did go out with an RFP for public domain charging stations. So they will be, at some point, rolling those out. But I believe there was a vendor selected. And so that program, I would imagine, is going to be rolled out at some point.
Through the chairman, thank you for reminding me. But yeah, we're working on that. We're actually working with the selected vendor on the locations, and it will be citywide in all wards. We don't have it all figured out yet where exactly they're going to be, but we would of course come to the council members when we have proposals for locations here.
All right. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 111-2024 stands approved. Thank you so much. Next ordinance is ordinance number 227-2024 by council members McCormick, Harrison, Bishop, and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the directors of capital projects, port control, and/or Public Works to enter into one or more agreements with Cuyahoga County and Cleveland Metro Parks to construct an all-purpose trail on the north side of North Marginal, including a maintenance and repair agreement with the Metro Parks for a term of not to exceed 20 years with 5 two-year options to renew, exercisable by the Metro Parks, authorizing one or more submerged land leases with the state of Ohio and future subleases for a term up to 99 years with 2 50-year options to renew, exercisable by the appropriate director, and to replace or otherwise adjust existing adjacent submerged land leases and subleases, authorizing one or more encroachment permits to the county, authorizing acquisition of real property easements and work agreements, conveyance of temporary deeds of easement, and authorizing any other agreements to effectuate this ordinance. Chief?
Mr. Chairman, so this is for the North Marginal Road Connector Trail from East 9th Street to the East 55th Street Marina. And before we get into the project, let me introduce the guests of the table. To my left is Trevor Hunt. He's with Cuyahoga County. Thank you. Trevor Hunt with Cuyahoga County Department of Public Works. Commissioner DeGennaro. Katie Moore with the Mayor's Office of Capital Projects, and John Hoos with the Department of Port Control. The reason they're all here is that this ordinance really touches all of the various departments that are here today, as well as Cuyahoga County. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Commissioner DeGennaro to go through the presentation.
Thank you. This project is a visionary project that's been in the works for many years to improve a stretch of North Marginal from East 9th to East 55th Street. It's a heavily used pedestrian route, but currently doesn't offer, it offers limited amenities. There's no signage, no sidewalks, limited pavement markings, no lighting. So Cuyahoga County has proposed to construct 2.7 miles of all-purpose trail along the north side of North Marginal, again from East 9th to East 55th, which will connect to a current Metro Parks all-purpose trail that goes from East 55th to Martin Luther King Drive. So effectively, this project will create a trail connection from downtown all the way out to University Circle. The Metro Parks will maintain the trail after construction under a maintenance agreement with the city. And the legislation authorizes the Director of Mayor's Office of Capital Projects to enter into a three-party agreement with county and the Metro Parks outlining the roles and responsibilities with regard to design, construction, and maintenance. The affected properties are under the jurisdiction of Department of Public Works and Port Control, and so Cuyahoga County has requested temporary construction easements on Burke Lakefront Airport property, as well as Public Works properties currently leased to others, including Lakefront, Lakeside Yacht Club, Forest City Yacht Club, and Sailing Inc. The temporary easements are needed for driveway replacement, fence and gate construction, grading, and landscaping. And finally, the city will contribute $130,000 to the project, which has a total project budget of just over $13 million. Thank you.
Please continue. Thank you. Go ahead. All right, please. Yes. Go ahead, please.
Chairman, my comments are concluded
all right.
unless anybody
No
has
problem.
any questions.
Thank you. All right, so first of all, this was heard in Municipal Services and Development Planning and Sustainability. Councilman Harrison, Councilman Bishop.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we fully vetted this. We recommend it for passage.
Okay. Councilman Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We also heard this in DPS. This has been a long time coming, this stretch between Wards 3 and Ward 10. Back right as I was entering County Council, this project had begun from the campus district, and someone else was a part of developing this. So this has been on the books for quite some time. The residents in the community is happy. Now they have we'll have a more safe and better route to get from the waterfront down to East 9th Street, because the sidewalk stops at a certain point. It gets narrow. It's just it can be a bit sketchy as you're traveling down North Marginal. So we fully support this piece. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And I would say out of a, what is it? How much is the project? 11 million, 13 million, somewhere around there.
13 million.
13 million. Our city portion is $130,000. So I think we're working out pretty well. All right. Thank you.
All right, and I know this actually touches Councilman Hairston and McCormick's ward.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, can I be added as a co-sponsor on this? I don't see that I am.
Please add Councilman McCormick as a co-sponsor.
Thank you. Chair, no, I speak in favor of this legislation as well. And as Councilman Hairston noted, this was one of the first meetings I took as a city council member, and I am the fourth most tenured member of the body now. So that'll tell you how long this has gone on. But I'm really excited that we're here today. As the councilman noted, there really isn't a great connection for folks on a bike or wheelchair or walking or whatever it might be. So this is really exciting connection along the Marginal and kind of connecting the lakefront too. And they want to thank the county for their work on this. And as the councilman noted, cover your ears. We're getting a good deal out of this financially. The county's picking up the majority of this tab, so which I'm sure Mr. Hunt is happy to do. So the other thing I'll note, Mr. Chairman, is I want to recognize Bobby Richtel, formerly of the campus district. She was one of the big, passionate advocates for this project. She's since retired, still very active in the community, but since retired. I think Councilwoman Spencer's not here, one of her residents. But she was the big force behind this amongst other people as well. So want to give her a shout out as well for this. Thank you.
All right, yes.
Councilman, if I could just also thank the Mandel Foundation because they put $5 million into this project, and I don't want to leave the table without acknowledging that.
All right, and they've been making some very serious investments across the cities.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other questions, ordinance number 227-2024 stands approved. Please sign on.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next one that I would like to bring up is ordinance number 1337-2023 as amended by Council members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of City Planning to enter into an amendment to contract number PS 2023 *0018 with James Corner Field Operations LLC to extend the contract for an additional year for additional services required by the city and to amend the name of the consultant from James Corner Field Operations LLC to Field Operations. And the amendment that was proffered is that there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. In Section 3, Line 1, after shall insert not exceed 400,000 and shall. And we're going to have the finance director present to us, but I will tell the finance director in advance a lot of questions around this. And I know that Councilman Hairston and his committee had significant questions about it. And I will be honest, I really need to understand the answers to some of the questions that we might have if we're going to move this forward, because I was a little bit concerned with what I heard last week. But I'll give you the floor, and we'll go from there. If you could.
Thank you. I just a point of order on this, Chair, to our DPS chair. It was my understanding that we also amended, we had a second amendment to this piece that doesn't seem to be recorded. I was just saying that. Pertaining to no other city funds shall be, so this is missing an amendment.
So that's why I said there's a lot of questions on this. Could you pass this down to Mr. Hairston? But if you could, let's give the finance director an opportunity to express this, and then we'll go from there.
Through the chair to the council, so I'm sitting here in place of Director Wong, who is at the American Planners Association meeting today in Minneapolis. So the proposed ordinance before the amendments would do essentially two things. One is change the name of the counterparty, and that's simply the result of reorganization happening at the company, going from James Corner Field Operations to simply Field Operations. And second is to add $400,000 to the authorization of the contract, and that comes in two pieces. One is $260,000 to cover additional services rendered by Field Operations that were requested by the administration, and then second is to add additional services on a going forward basis to help with some scenario planning on the lakefront with respect to the master plan. So I'm happy to answer any questions that folks have.
Well, I want to hear what Councilman Hairston has to say, but the first thing that comes to mind is that when I looked at the former hearing, it looks, and somebody correct me, like somebody spent $260,000 unauthorized by council. And if you could you help me clarify that before we move any further, because that does not sit well with a lot of council members if that's the case. Inez, do we have this downloaded, this piece of legislation? 1337.
I don't see it on here.
Could you double check if it's on the screen? Please proceed, and then we'll try to pull it up, the legislation, Councilman. It got to be around here somewhere if we could pull it up. Please.
To the chairman, none of this money has been spent. We are requesting the authorization to amend the contract to be able to expend the funds, but none of these funds have left the city.
No, I get that, Chief. And let me make sure that I'm understanding correctly, because I really came here to try to get a good understanding of this. There were $260,000 worth of services provided. However, did council authorize that expenditure of $260,000? That's what I'm trying to understand.
So through the chair, I think given the nature of the work, there was a good bit of effort by Field Operations that became apparent was necessary so that we could fully understand the implications of the master plan, fully conduct community engagement, and this work was done under the hope that we would be coming back to council to get additional authorization to actually expend these funds. And so it was in partnership with field operations, knowing that more work was needed. We are now in front of you asking authority to amend the agreement to actually be able to expend the funds, even though the services have been rendered.
But Chief, what concerns me, and I just have to maybe I'm missing something. What concerns me is that this legislative body has the authority, is the body that authorizes those expenditures. So basically, you guys cut a check and say, we'll go to council after the fact.
We did not cut a
And
check.
that's what I'm trying, I understand no money's been out the door, but what if we didn't authorize this? What if we didn't authorize this extra 260,000? Then how would they get paid? How would this happen? That's what I'm trying to understand.
To the chair, they wouldn't get paid.
So that's my point. $260,000 worth of services were rendered without council approval. Am I missing or am I right there so far?
You're in terms of the quantity of the services, the type of services were under part of the original agreement.
Okay, so this is what I'm trying to get to, Chief. Somehow, there was a step missed in this. And now we're being asked as council to pass something that, quite frankly, what if we didn't pass it? What if there wasn't an appetite to do it, and then there's services rendered? So let me change the question. Will they still have a right to sue, or will they still come after the city for that $260,000 that was committed to them, even though council did not authorize it?
To the chairman, so it's my understanding under state law, if a vendor provides services without the appropriate appropriation or certification of funds, that they do so subject to the risk that they don't get paid.
Well, we got some questions on this one, and I'll be honest with you, Director. One of the things, and I'm going to ask if Councilman Harrison has a couple of points that I'm really leaning towards holding this until we get some more clarification. Like, who made the decision to render those services? Somebody had to give authorization. Was it, who was the appointed authority that gave authority to spend this money? And what were the checks and balances on the administration side to prevent them from making a commitment for $260,000 worth of expenditures without talking to council?
Through the chair, I think part of what happened was the expense of the services rendered came in much higher than we anticipated. So it wasn't that there was an intentional effort to spend more money than council had approved in the original ordinance. It's as invoices came in, they were coming in higher than we anticipated because the level of effort required by field operations was much more. And so we ended up in a situation, I think not on purpose, there's no intentional effort to subvert council's authority, but we ended up in a situation where the presumed budget of the project was not adequate, and we only learned that sort of after we started getting invoices. And this is an effort in sort of good faith and partnership with field operations to do what we can to cover those expenses that none of us anticipated. If we had anticipated these expenses, we would have requested that amount in the original ordinance.
Are the other vendors, did they go over? Did field operations or James Comer Fields, are they the only ones that were authorized to go over? Did the other entities, be it Madison, Magnuson, Dominic, Durham, did any of those go over as well? Or is it just James Corner Field?
Through the chair, I don't know the answer to that.
All right, I'm going to pivot if I could, because I know that Councilman Harrison watched some of this, and then I'll go to Councilman Polensky. I may need to come back on because this one confuses me. I'm really trying to understand, Chief, how can we stop this from happening in the future? This not acceptable. We're here for a reason, and I don't know where the mistake was made. Nobody can tell me who made the decision, how the decision was made, and we're here faced with $260,000 bill that council has no insight, understand what services were provided with that $260,000. We don't know if it was just towards James Corner Field or if it was Robert Madison and Magnuson and some of these other folks. We're basically just asked to write a $260,000 check, that nobody even bothered to ask what our thoughts were. So I have a problem with this, but I know that Councilman Hairston, if you had any questions, and then Councilman Polisic.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. Although we moved this out of the committee, if you go back and watch the video, there were some concerns regarding this piece from, I think, every member of the committee. We talked about the need to have stronger language, not only for this piece, but future pieces that would just allow for the administration to let a contract go over the not to exceed amount and then just say we'll come back to the body and ask for more money. Well, what's the purpose of not to exceed? If we set a number and you could just go over the number and come back and say, well, can you give us more money to, pay for the overages that we've experienced? To the chair, to the director, just on part of your comment, so every vendor can lowball us and then come back and say, well, we need more money to continue to work. That's what it sounds like to me. That could happen, in these scenarios that we are faced with. We see a lot of work coming our way here in the city. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of consultants. There's a lot of, folks doing work on our behalf. And, I really feel that way. Like, they can lowball us. They can come back, ask for more money, and then what? Right? So, as the president said, as I continue to think about this, and as I heard from other members of the committee, between committee and today, we wanted more discussion, right? To figure out, and really more time to figure out what other language we can put in the ordinance that would not allow for the administration to just blatantly exceed the not to exceed amount that we've set in the ordinance and just come back and say, well, we need more dollars to support the work, right? I get at times, other things may come up or other work is a bit more intense than everyone expected it to be. However, that's why you monitor, that's why you control, that's why you track, that's why you, as you see invoices approaching your not to exceed dollar, you say pause until we really go through and see where we are, see what we need to do. Let's go back to the legislative body who has the appropriation authority to say yes or no to this request. I have full faith in this finance department that with the work that you all do. However, I am concerned that we weren't tracking our spending. We weren't tracking the invoices as they were coming in. We just said, okay, hey, go out and do this work with no type of benchmarks or no type of check-ins to see where we are in terms of our spending. Those are things that we have to monitor when we're doing this work, because it can easily get out of hand. It can easily go left really quick, right? And if folks are not, monitoring and controlling the costs, that can happen very easily. So I agree with the president. Again, between DPS and today, there's been some conversations and thoughts and concerns around, just that, Mr. Chair.
Through the chair to the council, a few responses. One, we certainly do not desire for vendors to come in and lowball us only to see those prices go up. I think the vendors who do that do it at the risk of never getting more business from us, because we like to have certainty about expenses with the work that we undertake. I think in this case, there was simply a lot more work than was anticipated. Could the process have been better? Absolutely. I will say, in defense of my finance department colleagues, not a penny was spent in excess of what was appropriated and approved by council, and that is the role of the finance department in this process. Is we control at the level of the authorized amount, and checks don't get sent in excess of that authorized amount, and not a cent was sent outside the building in excess of what council had authorized in the original ordinance. I think there is, with work that is as complicated and moving as quickly and kind of as high profile as this, cost overruns are going to happen. We're going to try to control them as best as we can. And we're here now to request the authority to cover those. And if that's not how this plays out, then we will deal with that as we need to. But this was, I just want to restate the fact that where we are today is the result of, I think, folks across the administration working in good faith to pursue the objectives of the project, and unfortunately ending up where we are, even in spite of that good faith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Finance Director, again, please don't take my comments as me bashing the Finance Department. Please don't do that. You have some of the same folks who was under the previous administration that are still there who are top quality people. My point is that no matter how complex, no matter how, deep the projects that they are working on, you still have to monitor and control every aspect of the project. And because it's so complex, because it is so deep, because it can quickly go left very quickly in terms of costs, and we could look around and we're $1 million over our budget, right? We have to monitor every step of the way. We have to. Because if not, this body will continue just to keep adding and adding and adding and adding more money. And the question becomes, as it came up during committee, when does it stop, right? I know we all trying to achieve the objectives that has been put out front as it relates to our waterfront and other work that we're doing here in our city. However, but just because they are complex doesn't mean we take our hands off, right? That we are not fully paying attention to the cost, and we're just saying, hey, let's just get it done. No, it doesn't work like that, right? This is not an open, this checkbook is just not free flowing forever. Like, we don't have endless amount of money, right? We have to, and you know that. I know you do. So, again, we have to monitor these better. If we are approaching a certain number as relates to the invoices we're receiving back, that we need to pause, and at the very least, reach out to this body, the leadership of this body, and say, hey, we need to have a conversation. We're approaching our not to exceed amount that you all have authorized us to go up to. We believe that we're going to need this amount of money moving forward because our invoices have come in above what we initially anticipated. Like, it's a conversation, right? It's not just, hey, let's just get it done and we'll go back and have a conversation with the council later. And I think we need to get off the fact that it's not just about spending of the money. If services has been authorized to complete, that's the same thing as spending dollars, in our opinion, as you hear. If you're authorizing the dollars, if you're authorizing the work to be done with the expectation of the money being allocated for you to expend, it's the same thing, whether you cut the check or you didn't. The services were authorized to be done with the hope that this body would approve the money for you then to spend to pay the vendor who completed the work. Well, as I told the director before, and I'm sure she had a conversation with you before this meeting about our comments at DPS, that's not okay. Don't believe that you're gonna come and you're gonna give it to us, we're gonna say yes, and we're gonna support it. It don't work that way. That this body should respect a little bit more to have a conversation with us if, in fact, there is a need to expend more dollars, because if we put money inside of a project or a program within the city, right, they'll stop it. It'll be stopped completely. They say, well, you can't do this because you don't have to do the work. It should go the same way here as well. And I get the complexities, the high level stuff that we're doing here and the work that's going on around our city. But we even within that, we cannot take our hands off of the wheel and just allow it to go freely, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And I know we're going to have a few more questions again, but did you want to respond, Chief, or did you want to hear Councilman Polinsky? Councilman Polinsky? Thank you. And anybody else want to sign up for this? On that point, or you want to just go on after Councilman Polinsky? Councilman, would you allow Councilwoman Spencer on this point before you go on? Go ahead. Councilman Spencer.
Thank you, Council President. Just briefly on this point, I apologize if it was stated and I missed it. What was, through the chair, what was the amount of the original contract for which Council did provide authorization? I'm looking for an order of magnitude of what was the original contract and how much are we?
Chief?
How much did we overshoot?
I know originally it was not to exceed, but then we did put a number in there. It wasn't a number, it was not to exceed?
Chairman, per our last hearing, we did not put a not to exceed. We passed this without a not to exceed in it, which is part of the problem.
And that's what you offered, and that's what you're saying that was
So
not offered.
we
Okay.
passed this without a not to exceed. So the amendments that were proposed in committee were to authorize the additional spending with a not to exceed, as well as articulating that no other additional city funds would be authorized without additional legislative authority, essentially. So
Correct.
But the original piece did not have a not to exceed, which I think is a part of the problem.
Councilman Harrison, clarification.
Correct, he's right. So at DPS, that did come up, but the actual contract that was signed with James Corner Field did have a not to exceed of $500,000 in the contract.
That we accepted, right?
Correct.
So we did approve the $500,000 for James Cornerfield.
And to Councilman McCormick's other point, there was a second piece to the amendments that we made for the not to use any other funds, as he mentioned, but that's not a part of this amendment. Only the not to exceed $400,000 is shown in the 1337 amendment. So that was that second half that we both said that was missing from the piece.
Councilman, can you make sure you draw those up so that if we need to proffer those amendments, but I'll be honest, I think we got to do some more background on this one. Councilman Polinsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, and to the director. For those of us that are not on DPS, I'm trying to get my arms around this one. The codified ordinances are very clear. Anything that exceeds $50,000 has to be approved by City Council, by the council. So this, again, go back to the original dollar amount. Was it 500,000?
Yes. Clarification, he said,
Through the chair, I believe the contract itself was $500,000. The ordinance did not reference $500,000.
Okay. And you've exceeded the 500,000 by how much?
Through the chair, the $260,000, that's a portion of the $400,000 that's being requested today.
Okay. So in essence, the contract would be to James Corner Field Operations would be $760,000, correct?
Through the chair, no, with the full amount being requested would be $900,000.
Okay, total 900,000. Okay. And what I'm trying to understand, Mr. Chairman, who authorized it?
how did that happen?
That's what I don't understand. I have not, no one has said who authorized that.
Through the chair, I'm not aware. It's not a finance department contract. I would say
Yes.
the 140, so there's the 260 for services that have been rendered. The 140, which gets us to the 900 total, is for prospective services to help with some additional planning to account for various outcomes that could happen on the lakefront in terms of future development.
Okay, so this is this for the design of the lakefront plan, including the connector between City Hall and the courthouse, or is this just the lakefront?
Through the chair, it is the lakefront and design work on the connector itself.
Okay.
And then also a lot of community engagement work, which was led by field operations
Okay.
and was assisted by certain
Yeah.
subcontractors.
So is James Corner Field Operations LLC, they're not a local company, are they?
Through the chair, no.
No, they're not. You know where they're based out of?
New York City.
New York City. Okay, so Mr. Chairman, I share your concerns. What we need to do is find out who authorized the additional work. We need to find out up to this point what work has been completed, and I'm assuming at DPS they agreed to the additional, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they agreed to the additional 260,000? They didn't.
No.
Okay, I'm not clear on.
They did pass it out of DPS, but they had several amendments that are not on there, and these same questions come up.
Okay, so then, Mr. Chairman, I'm recommending that it be held until we can get clarifications. We know this lakefront plan is a major undertaking, And we've got to make sure that we're not caught in the lurch in the future as it pertains to design and this entire project, because we've seen so often projects exceed what we had been told at the table. We've seen that far too often in the past. So again, I would strongly, and if need be, I would move that the legislation be held until we can get clarification on the request that we have made.
Through the chair, if I may, please. Noting the clear concern around the $260,000 for the work that has been provided, I would request that council consider moving forward at least with a $140,000 ask for future work, so that we don't slow down work on the plan. And each day that passes, we get closer to deadlines for applying for federal money, applying for federal loans, and having a complete plan is essential to that process. So I would request, if there is a desire to hold on the funds that deal with work that has already been provided, to not hold up the funds for work to be provided in the future alongside it.
So,
and what's that dollar amount then associated with that?
Well, that's one of, let me jump back in if I could, okay? I do want to make sure that I hear from all the council members before I, as chair, take whatever recommendations, because I do want to follow up on a couple of things. And I have Councilman Casey and Councilman Bishop, Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just on that point, I'm not sure we can hold half a legislation without amending it immensely at the table. But on that point, Mr. Chairman, to the director or chief, when did the contract start and when is it scheduled to end?
Through the chair, the contract term, I believe, will go through January of 2025.
And Mr. Chairman, to the director, when they signed the contract with the city, was there a dollar amount in that contract?
Through the chair, yes, it was $500,000.
And just for clarification, now they're coming back saying they need more? Or have they done, okay, let me ask you this way, Mr. Chairman, the director, have they done the $500,000 worth of work?
Through the chair, yes.
Is the job complete?
No.
Has their contract been fulfilled?
Through the chair, given, I would say they have upheld their obligations, but there's more work to be done, which is why we're having this
All
conversation.
right, and then Mr. Chairman, to the director, who indicates that there's more work to be done? Obviously, we put out an RFP. We said what we wanted in the RFP. Was the RFP, they won the bid to get the RFP.
Mm-hmm.
They did the work that was in the RFP, correct?
Through the chair, more or less, yes. We, as part of the process, for example, it became clear that they needed to be a bit more involved in the land bridge effort. So that's the sort of structural construction work is not being done by them. That's being done by Osborne Engineering, I believe, under a grant, under an ODOT grant. And it became clear in that process that having field operations weigh in on the design aspects of the bridge was really important for the construction design. So they had to be more involved in that effort than anyone on the administration side had anticipated during the RFP process. So I think that's one good example of how costs came in above what was expected, simply because the work was a little different than we had predicted in the RFP.
And then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, if the work has already been done, has it been made public yet?
Through the chair, I believe the 60% design for the master plan has been made public, but that's the most detailed document yet to have been made public.
And then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, since the work has already been done, when does the administration or James Cornerfield's operations plan on releasing their what we paid for?
Yeah. So through the chair, maybe I was misunderstanding. So the full design document is not done at the moment. When it is done, it will be made public and presented to council, just like the 60% drawing was.
All right, and then, Mr. Chairman, to the director, so they've done the $500,000 worth of work. You're indicating that we need to pay more to have more done, so we're looking at upwards now of $250,000 just to have the design done.
Through the chair, sort of the original scope, and then the 140,000 on top of that is to do additional design work to contemplate potential other development scenarios on the lakefront.
So, Mr. Chairman, to the director, we're looking at probably close to $1 million just for scenarios that may or may not ever come to light.
Through the chair, if we were to amend the contract as proposed, it would be $900,000 total.
So,
Yeah.
by the time we're done, close to $1 million. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director.
And actually, that may be a little bit more than $1 million, because if we're looking at the other components, then the other Madison as well as the other contractual, who is the third space, also. And just as a follow-up, Chief, on that line of questioning, and I was made aware by some of the committee members that there was a request to ask for a breakdown of all of the expenditures. Council never got that. So once again, we're here for transparency. Council's job is to make sure that we ask the questions to bring to light to public. So these are more reasons why we have some concerns about this. But I have Councilman McCormick and then Councilman Bishop.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I had made a motion too. That we hold.
I'm holding.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to make a motion to do it.
I did, but I.
But if, okay, so there's a motion on the floor. There's a motion on the floor. And it's a motion proffered to hold this legislation until further explanation. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I got Bishop second. All in, any discussion?
Chair.
Councilman McCormick, discussion.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. And I don't know however we want to do this, but I think having members speak too before a hold motion is helpful. But I wanted to note, I mean, I concur with the need to get additional information and everything that's been said at the table. I think we had a really good discussion in DPS about this as well, and I don't want to lose the fact that this is really important work for the city of Cleveland. So making sure that we kind of get all these questions answered so that members have a level of comfort with whatever happens moving forward. But I don't want to lose sight of that this is obviously critical work being done. And I was I know many of us sit on committees for the Lakefront. I was a part of the selection process for this organization that's doing this work. So again, I support all the requests to get the information and get all this nailed down as this moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bishop?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we hold this piece of legislation until we get clarity about who authorized this piece of legislation.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other discussion on the amendment that has been offered? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. We're going to hold this piece of legislation. I do want to make sure that I give clarification that originally there was a not to exceed. And the contract that we put in place was in section 1 at the end of first paragraph, contracts authorized under this section shall not exceed $500,000. In section 2, and this was on 12/05/22. In section 2 at the end, it had insert contracts authorized under this section shall not exceed $400,000. In section 3, line 1, after authorized, insert under this ordinance shall not exceed $900,000. So there were some things put in place that this council has done, and I concur with what my colleague Councilman Harrison said. We're concerned that if, I think the administration should also be concerned that these are folks that have come in at a lower price, and I think it'd be unfair because in a lot of cases they'll win the bid and then jack up the price. So this is concerning on so many levels. And I just want to make sure we get more clarified. I do want to know more about who actually made the call, what was the confirming policy, if that was done through Director Wong, how far did it go up so I can know how that decision was made to move forward with that extra expenditure. We'll have a whole list of questions to you, but I understand what Councilman McCormick is saying about making sure that this is important work and we want to be a good partner, but we're here to make sure that we provide transparency. And we want to be good fiscal stewards. So we're going to hold this piece, and then we'll sit over some questions for Director Wong and yourself. Councilman Casey on that point.
Just, can I just get one clarifying question, just Chairman, to the Director? When this, are they only working on one master plan?
Through the chair, yes.
All right, so it's not like they would come up with one, whether there's a stadium there or one without a stadium?
Through the chair, so they'll come up with a master plan. They will also come up with alternate scenarios in the event there is a stadium, there isn't a stadium,
Okay.
there's
So
land
we're-
bridge, there's no land bridge, there's, kind of all the different potential outcomes depending on available funding for the work.
All right, so
the
Mr. Chairman,
capital
Mr.
work.
Director, they're not asking for additional dollars to do a second one in case the stadium's not there?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're going to hold ordinance number 1337-2024. Please submit questions to Joe Titron. Joe Titron will then put together a memo, and we will send over a memo with any questions that you may have, and we'll get those questions answered. But I just want to state before I go to Councilwoman Spencer, I agree with Councilman McCormick. We know this is very important work, but council's here for a reason, and a lot of these could have happened with just conversations or just authentically working close together and say, hey, this is what's going on before we move in this direction. Here's what's happening, and that didn't happen. At least I don't require it on my behalf, but they could also always talk to the chair as well. Okay, Councilwoman Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this will be for our list that Joe Titron is collecting. But essentially, I'm wanting to know through you, Mr. Chair, was the $500,000 originally in the original contract meant to be enough to make this competitive for federal funds that the city will be seeking to execute the Lakefront plan? And if so, I mean, that was I would have assumed that was the original intent, right? When we set the original scope, that this should have been the package that was necessary to tee us up to make us competitive to seek those funds. And if that is not the case, how much of the additional or requested amount is the minimum needed to make us eligible or competitive to seek federal funds? I hope that question is clear. And I just wanted to submit it.
I don't know if the chief wants to answer that, but I mean, even if that is the case, I still think the same concern exists, but I do want to give the chief opportunity to share what he needs to share.
Through the chair to the councilwoman, so I think at the outset, there was an assumption that $500,000 would be enough. It was aggressive. I remember the conversations at the time to provide a full set of master plan documents that could be used to inform construction documents, inform the creation of construction budgets, get an idea of how much the capital expense would be to actually implement the master plan, and then also be used as part of our efforts with the federal government and the state government to bring grant dollars and sort of low-cost loan dollars to the project. I think as has been, I know as Director Wong noted last week, and I tried to perhaps artfully note earlier, the work was just a lot more complicated than I think we anticipated. And I would just offer that, as we all know, many things can be true at the same time, and that a better process absolutely could have unfolded with how this was handled. And the funds are certainly needed to ensure that we have the most compelling set of master plan documents possible to ensure success of the project. So not to excuse what didn't happen but should have over the last several months, but I would not be sitting here if the ask wasn't important, and we'll provide whatever information council requests and needs to inform its decision-making process. But I just understand the frustration on the council side, and just want to reiterate the fact that this is a lot of folks acting in good faith and not an intention to undermine council or sort of stand in the shoes that should rightly be filled by council members.
Thank you. And, I would just use an old statement that Fannie Lewis once said, whether you shoot me on purpose or unintentionally, when I'm shot, I'm shot. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands. I do want to clarify what you said, Councilwoman. The extra 260 and 140 was approved for expanding the scope of work. The contract that they received was for, that they said they could do the work for $500,000. Somebody made the decision to say, expand the scope of work. And that's where we need to understand the confirming policy of who pulled the trigger to say, to move that forward, because that's who we need to make sure they understand that they can't do that. All right? Councilman Hairston, you had a follow-up question.
Yes, just 2 points. So just to note, during our DPS meeting, the additional 140 is for new work. The 260 is for the work that was allowed to either continue or request for additional activities during that period. And the 140 is for new work. So I think that's important for us to know. The scenarios that Councilman Casey asked to the director that he responded to, that 140 would be for that work moving forward. And one last question from the director to the chief. Was James Corner Field a part of any of the many Browns discussions that was happening regarding them and what they're doing on Lakefront?
Through the chair, can you?
Did the administration have James Corner Field participate in the Browns discussions or Lakefront discussions related to the Browns? Were they a part of those discussions?
Through the chair to the councilman, I believe they were in one meeting regarding the kind of laying out the vision for the lakefront, but at least as far as I've been involved, that was it. Mm-hmm. And that was 2 years ago.
Okay,
Year,
got
a
it.
year
And I
a
asked that question because maybe that could be part of the, additional work, right? Don't know, just trying to figure out additional work. Maybe they started doing work that was not part of the master plan. They were a part of the discussions related to the Browns staying or leaving and, possibilities and so forth. So thank you for that.
All right, we're going to hold this piece of legislation. Once again, we'll send you over some of the questions we need clarification on. But, Chief, Council should never be surprised or look like we, don't have answers when we're able to have these kind of expenditures. So hopefully we can get those answers, and to Councilman McCormick's point, do the important work, but I really think it's essential that we, for the public's sake, make sure that we get that information. So we're going to hold ordinance number 1337-2024 until further notice. Thank you. All right, next up is community development. Community Development, ordinance number 340-2024 by Council members Hairston and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Community Development to enter into one or more agreements with the United Way of Greater Cleveland as the lead partner organization to implement a program to provide access to legal services for covered individuals in eviction proceedings under Section 375.12 of Codified Ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, legal representation in housing court, better known as right to counsel. Please proceed.
Yep. Thank you, Council President and members of the committee. Very quickly, this is an annual authorization to allow community development to implement the council's will to fund right to counsel program in the city of Cleveland, ensuring that those facing eviction have right to legal representation. There's no real changes. This is based off of the $500,000 recently approved through the budget process. And as always, United Way and Legal Aid will be briefing the council when their annual report comes out on the accomplishments of this program. Happy to answer any questions.
Sure. I'll go ahead and start out with Councilwoman Spencer.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, I was not present at DPS last week, so if this was discussed, I apologize. I wanted to clarify through you, I had thought we were increasing right to counsel in 2024 by an additional $250,000, which would have brought...
No, that was out of
2024 budget.
2024, no, it was 2024 general fund budget.
Yeah,
so I'm wondering-
2024 general is what it's supposed to be, so that is right. 2024, we did do reconciliation to increase this by 250.
So therefore, if I'm correct, the total should be 750.
And not 500,000.
I-
She's right, because we did, through reconciliation, approve, and I know the chief just left, but through reconciliation, we did approve another 250,000 for right to counsel. Chief, can we get clarification on something, if you could? Right to counsel, we, during reconciliation, we had a conversation and we increased that amount, but what they have here is 500,000. So I want to make sure that we got the right certification amount.
I thought it was for next year, but.
No, it was, we did transfer, we did.
Through the chair, it was for the 2024 operating budget
So that would be for this contract.
for this year.
So this is the contract for 2024?
Correct.
So then, I'm confused, help me understand. If this is for 2024 and we authorize $250 extra $1,000, then why wouldn't it be in this 2024 contract?
Council President, that's certainly our error. We were based off of the budget we had submitted that did not have the increase, so the increase was not taken into account when we requested
Okay, so
the
we need to
authorization.
put the 250 in here to actually bring it up to 750, to the councilwoman's point, right? Am I missing something, Chief? If you could make sure that we had that clarification, because I know that legal aid was a 250 reconciliation item that we had.
To the chairman, I think it was an oversight and it can be
Okay.
amended at the
So,
table.
can we verify that and then make the amendment? Because I'd like to try to put this to bed, and if we need to do it, I just want to verify if I could through you, sir, if we could. And then I'm okay if we can verify and make that amendment right now. And I believe that that would have to happen if Councilwoman Spencer actually proffers a motion.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair, to amend 340-2024 to increase the dollar amount to $750,000.
Councilwoman Spencer has proffered an amendment. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have it moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Hairston.
No, just my apologies. I forgot that we did increase their amount through reconciliation. So my apologies to the Finance Committee that wasn't called before today.
No problem. That's why we all here to catch it and have each other's back. So seeing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The amendment carries. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 340-2024 stands approved. Great catch, Councilwoman. We good? We made the amendment, Chief. Thank you for the clarification. Appreciate it. All right. Next up is Port Control. Port Control. Good afternoon. And it's Miss, I know it's Miss Dina. What is it, Dina and? Dina and Aaron. Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
All right, first ordinance is ordinance number 310-2024 by council members McCormick and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Port Control to enter into a lease agreement with RAS Aviation LLC DBA Zone Aviation for the lease of certain city-owned space at Burke Lakefront Airport for a period of 1 year with 4 one-year options to renew, exercisable by the Director of Port Control. Please proceed.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to the council. RAS has been leasing at Burke since 2009. It was formerly known as Premier Flight Academy. It offers flight training school and aircraft management and pilot support services. We would be leasing 1,452 square feet of office space in rooms 149 and 152. And the rent is determined by an independent third-party appraisal. Current rent is $26,139.28 annually.
Okay. Councilman, did you want to add anything?
Nope.
Okay. Councilman McCormick, this was heard in your committee?
Yep, heard and approved by Transportation and Mobility.
All right, do we have any other questions regarding ordinance number 310-2024? Seeing no questions, ordinance number 310-2024 stands approved. Please sign on. Next, we have ordinance number 327-2024, as amended by Council members McCormick and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to amend Section 9 of ordinance number 692-2021, passed October 11, 2021, relating to contracts and licenses necessary for ongoing mandatory environmental compliance for the Department of Port Control. And the amendment is as follows. There is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in the title, line 2, strike section and insert section 2 and 9. Number 2, in section 1, line 1, strike section and insert sections 2 and 9. And in line 2, strike is and insert are. And before amended section 9, insert amended section 2 to read as follows. Section 2. That the Director of Port Control is authorized to employ by contract or contracts one or more consultants or one or more firms of consultants for the purpose of supplementing the regularly employed staff of the several departments of the City of Cleveland in order to provide ongoing professional services, regulatory services, laboratory services, and analytical services necessary to comply with local, state, and federal environmental requirements, necessary to maintain operating status and to avoid serious penalties for noncompliance at Hopkins International Airport, Burke Lakefront Airport, and the Division of Harbors, Department of Port Control, for a period of 5 years. Number 3, in Section 2, Line 1, strike section and insert sections 2 and 9, and in Line 2, strike is and insert are. This was done 4/2/24 by Jeffrey Marks, Assistant Director of Law. Please proceed.
Correct. Through the chair to the council. So we are amending to add an additional funding source of Subfund 141 for airport discretionary funds for our ADF. This additional funding came from our OPERS refund, which was approximately $9.8 million, and we are appropriating some of those funds towards this. And then also what you spoke to about the amendments in the language, we are also doing that.
Great. All right, Councilman McCormick, this was heard in your committee?
Yes, sir. This is required environmental work that the airport is required to do. This was heard and approved by committee.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions regarding ordinance number 327-2024? Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 327-2024 stands approved. Next up is ordinance number 342-2024 by Council members McCormick and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Port Control to enter into one or more requirement contracts without competitive bidding with Runway Safe, Inc. for proprietary services of labor, training, and materials needed to inspect, maintain, and repair the engineered materials arresting systems for the Department of Port Control for a period of 4 years. Ms. Dina?
Correct. Through the chair to the council, yes, so this is just to enter into a requirements contract with Runway Safe for our EMAS, which is an obvious need for runway safety. That's engineered materials at the end of the runways that allow for if there are overruns with aircraft.
Okay. Any other questions regarding, Councilman McCormick, this was heard in your committee?
Chair, this is if the plane goes too far, there are cushions at the end of the runway that it would land into, for lack of a better term. We definitely need these. This was reviewed and approved by the committee.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me based on what I've been seeing with planes lately. We need
Yes.
I hate to say it, but we need them a lot more lately. I didn't want more landing gears not come down or anything else. So, all right. Last but not least, seeing no other questions, ordinance number 342-2024 stands approved. Last but not least, ordinance number 417-2024 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance approving the collective bargaining agreement with the International Longshoremen Association, Local 1317, and to amend Section 19 of Ordinance Number 194-2021, passed March 29, 2021, as amended, relating to compensation for various classifications.
Chair, I believe Port Control had one more piece.
Oh,
It's okay.
Ours is
I'm sorry.
415.
This is supposed to be,
This is for.
oh, 415 is HR. But this is under Port
Passenger.
Control and for introduction and passage tonight.
That's 415.
Okay, what is this? Could you get this?
I think
This
you got
was
the
one-
other
this was
Port Control.
longshoremen?
They're not labeled correctly. They have.
So what's that one?
Yours is 415?
Yeah.
That's theirs.
Okay. So this is HR. Got it. This is HR. This is something else. Okay. All right, ordinance number 415-2024 by council members McCormick and Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance to amend ordinance number 918-2021, passed November 15, 2021, as amended by ordinance number 512-2022, passed May 16, 2022, relating to the purchase or lease of passenger boarding bridges, including installation, parts, appurtenances, and other expenses, and the purchase of a passenger boarding bridge from JBT Aerotech Corporation, known as Oshkosh Aerotech LLC, to add additional services. This is for introduction and passage, and please proceed.
Correct. Through the chair to the council. So yes, we are looking to the bridge that we originally purchased. We need to relocate and also and move it to one of the gates, and also move to other bridges so that we can continue to operate with our additional services that we have recently acquired at the airport. This is very necessary for smooth operations.
Okay. Councilman McCormick, I know that this is traditionally heard by your committee.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I reviewed this via email and support the interim passage due to the importance of getting this on board with the, what do we call these things again? Jet bridge. And those, in Chair to the acting director, the jet bridge for those, that would be the bridge that comes out to meet the plane when a plane arrives at the airport,
Correct.
the passengers depart. Is that just?
Yes.
So folks are aware of what that is.
Okay, anything else? Councilman Polinsky.
Chairman, is there a reason why I didn't go to committee?
Councilman, I know that it was Councilman McCormick, did you have a question?
Chair, so this was submitted to myself and the council president, the letter as to why, but I don't know if you all wanted to speak on it.
Yeah,
or-
you guys want to speak to it if you could.
So this was it didn't go to Transportation Committee. We are direct awarding it to the JBT, which is now Oshkosh, because the bridge that we purchased is from them. It's still under warranty, so we would like them to install their bridge. That's basically, and then also just the timing. So we need to have it done because Frontier is starting their new air services, so it's trying to expedite it.
So, Mr. Chairman, to the young ladies that are at the table in the administration, you understand the importance of the committee, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. So just in the future, committee process is there for reasons. So, okay.
I usually never try to bypass committees. I will tell you that Port is usually very good about getting their stuff in. However, let me say this, Councilman Polinsky is right. I really push all my chairs that I try hard not to relieve things. When I was chair, I didn't relieve one piece of legislation. And the reason why is because, quite frankly, the committee process is where, as you seen earlier, that's where you vet some of these things. By the time it comes here, we should just be talking dollars and cents. So just keep that in mind. Because there might be some more deep dive questions, but Councilman McCormick and myself talked about this, and we support this legislation moving forward, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Therefore, ordinance number 415-2024 stands approved. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please, appreciate you guys. All right, HR? You filling in for Director Cole?
Hi.
How you
yes.
doing?
Ed
Okay.
Morales, Assistant Director.
Okay, got you. All right, this is ordinance number 417-2024 by Councilmember Griffin by departmental request, an emergency ordinance approving the collective bargaining agreement with the International Longshoremen Association, Local 1317, and to amend Section 19 of ordinance number 194-2021, passed March 29, 2021, as amended, relating to compensation for various classifications. And please state your name, sir.
Mr. Chair, my name is Adelio Morales. I'm Assistant Director of the Department of Human Resources. And this agreement is a successor collective bargaining agreement covering approximately 22 employees at the Department of Public Works, represented by Local 1317 Longshoremen. We're asking for approval of the CBA and the corresponding pay band legislation. The agreement covers the term April 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2025.
All right, thank you. This is just a traditional collective bargaining agreement. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing no questions, ordinance number 417-2024 will be introduced and considered for passage by the entire council tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, safety. This is, oops. Somebody got to get this tape back together. That looks tacky. We need some help with the tape.
Get some tape over there?
All right, so this is ordinance number 262-2024, as amended by council members Casey, Polensek, Jones, Gray, Kelly, Slife, Starr, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Finance to establish a fund for use by the Division of Police to reimburse officers for certain expenditures. And I know that Councilman Polensek's been trying to get this for a while. And I'll read the amendment. The amendment is as follows, and there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in section 1, line 1, after expenditures, insert, including but not limited to food and beverages. This is dated 3/25/2024 by Stephanie Melnick, Chief Counsel. And do we have, Councilman Polensek, I know that this was really your baby.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it was Councilman Casey. Councilman Casey has been the point person on this, and I really appreciate his engagement because all of us have been confronted with this in City Council, like I just was last week for the Coffee with the Cops program in the 5th District, where the commanders are very limited. Well, in fact, virtually have no funds available to supply, where they can go out and purchase refreshments for a neighborhood meeting, when they have their Halloween parties, their Christmas parties, or other events and engagements where they can go out and purchase things. And again, Councilman Casey was very much aware of that, the concerns that have been raised citywide. So he initiated this. Obviously, those of us on the Safety Committee wholeheartedly support it. The administration indicated their support of it, so it would allocate $10,000 for each of the 5 districts to be used at the discretion of the commander, what they are required to maintain receipts, documents to show how the funds are being spent. So it was unanimously supported by the committee, and again, I thank Councilman Casey for him taking the lead on this issue.
No problem, and I'm gonna go to Councilman Casey. I do have a question, but Councilman Casey, I want to hear what your thoughts are first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, for all too long now, we've been hearing about police officers that go out of pocket, as well as commanders who are seeking donations. This is just a way for each commander to have basically an expense account that they can spend within their district so that they don't have to, for a lack of a better term, go begging local businesses.
Or the councilman.
Or the council for dollars. So it's something that I've had a conversation with all the commanders regarding it. Enough of the frontline people who come out of pocket for, things that benefit just the residents of the city of Cleveland. So we decided that we would set this up, and I want to thank Councilman Polensek and the Safety Committee for supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me say this. I wholeheartedly support this legislation. I just do have this question. Where in the Police Commission's budget supposed to be supporting police community relationships that they don't fund this and that they don't have these kind of resources? And CRB also has a budget that they're that we allocate towards them. And I'm all for this because I understand, as you all say, the police officers are always going to come to the council person. But I just want you all to consider that when we are funding some of these other entities, because really the group that should be figuring out, and maybe one of the grants that they should have given would have been great if the police commission would have showed that gesture and maybe invested in this. But once again, council to the rescue. I think this is something well worth the investment. I just want to bring that up because while everybody comes to council to fix these kind of issues, we're funding people at extraordinarily amounts of money that they should be looking at these as potential ways to support police community relations as well.
Mr. Chairman, you raise a very valid point because, as you know, within the budget, based on issue 24, now chapter 115 of the charter, they are given a exact percentage of the Citizens Police Commission of the city budget pertaining to the Division of Police. So again, I mean, that would have been a very nice gesture on their part to fund some type of venture like this, but obviously that's something that we can raise in the future, whether it be with them or others, because again, this is about building neighborhood relationships. It's really about community policing. And you, as you've indicated, thank goodness that the council steps up to the plate repeatedly to try to support these type of initiatives and programs so we can have better relations with our neighborhood groups and our neighborhood organizations and our men and women in blue in our districts. Thank you.
Thank you. And once again, we'll foot the bill this year, but I want to plant that seed because as we have conversations with the commission and CRB, that should be a pointed question that we ask is what kind of money are you putting, not just for feeding people, but just for community-based incentives, period. People come out when they're being fed well, where part of it is entertainment as well as education. So if they're going to look at doing some of these things, it shouldn't always be just about we're going to come and talk about this. It's also about how do you build good relationship between the police and the community. So let's just keep that in mind as they come before us, which is something that we might want to consider. Okay?
As I indicated, really hit home last week at the Coffee with Cops. If McDonald's supplied the coffee, but the commander of the 5th District could not supply anything else, which would have been nice at the event for the citizens who were there in attendance. So now they're going to be able to provide some additional, refreshments for these neighborhood-based things that go on. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Councilman. Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 262-2024 stands approved. And can you add me onto that as well, if you could? Thank you.
Same here, Mr.
Same here. I usually like to say everyone, but I've learned that there's always one or two council members that say, hey, I don't know. So everybody in this room needs to be on. If somebody else wants to be added, they can be added, okay? But everybody in this room, if you could add them to that legislation, okay? Thank you. All right, last but not least is ordinance number 387-2024, as amended by council members McCormick and Slight, an emergency ordinance to amend section 196.03 of the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, as amended by ordinance number 405-10, passed April 19th, 2010, relating to residential parking tax exemption. And our attorney, Ms. O'Leary, will guide us in this legislation. And Councilman McCormick and Councilman Slife, if you could add on. Oh, let me read the amendment. A lot of amendments today. The amendment is, there is no legal objection to this legislation if amended as follows. 1, in section 1, add amended section 196.03 D1A, line 2, after thereof, strike the colon and insert
semicolon,
and in Division D1B, line 15, strike commission and insert commissioner in line 116 after has issued a insert non-transferable, and then line 17 after more than one insert parking tax. This was dated 4/10/2024. Stephanie Melnick, Chief Corporate Counsel. Ms. O'Leary.
Through the chair to the council committee, this ordinance amends codified ordinance section 196.03 to clarify the process and conditions for a residential parking tax exemption. Residents that meet certain conditions are exempt from paying the 8% parking occupancy tax for parking within the city. And the amendments that we've to this ordinance require the following conditions for the exemption. 1, the off-site parking facility is within a half-mile radius of the resident's place of residence, except for a place of residence within the downtown parking area. 2, the parking facility owner or operator must have entered into a written agreement with either the resident patron or the patron's place of residence. And 3, the Commissioner of Assessments and Licenses has issued a non-transferable residential parking tax exemption certificate to such patron. In addition, a resident patron shall be eligible for no more than one exemption certificate per year. So this is really kind of a technical amendment to clarify some process and conditions of being granted this exemption from parking tax.
I've got you on the list, Councilman. Okay, so, and this is a piece originally from 2010, it appears, is that correct?
I mean, this is already in the code. We're just amending it.
Got
So the
it.
last time it was put in there in 2010.
Got it, and this is to kind of clean up as we've been working on this process. It's kind of confusing.
Yeah, there were
and-
some questions that came up for both parking operators and residents that are trying to take advantage of the exemption for their parking.
Got it, okay. And I know the answer to this question, but just for the record, you've worked diligently with the different departments that are going to enforce this to make sure that this is enforceable and, an effective piece of legislation. Is that correct?
Yes, through the chair to the councilman, mostly with assessments and licenses. And we also had input from downtown Cleveland and the Cleveland Parking Association.
Got it. So this essentially says if you're a resident, unlike a visitor or someone else, you're waived that 8% parking tax.
Correct.
Okay. Councilman Plensik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that's what I wanted Jennifer, she could walk us through it, because I'm trying to understand it myself. So if I'm a resident, it doesn't have to be just downtown, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Citywide.
If I'm a resident of the city and I have to park in a parking garage or a lot, a private lot, and we know there's an 8% charge on that parking spot if you're parking daily. So walk us through, do you fill out a form? What is the mechanism? That's what I'm not clear on.
Right, okay, through the chair to the councilman. So, and this is the part, it does say you have to have a certificate issued by the Commissioner of Assessments and Licenses. And Assessments and Licenses has guaranteed that they will put this certificate form on the website so that it's easy for people to access. But so they will get that certificate, and they'll have to enter into a written agreement with the parking operator, or the parking operator can have a written agreement with the place of residence, either the patron resident or the place of residence. And then that guarantees the exemption.
So
the operators themselves are the ones that actually, remit the tax.
So is there some notification of parking lot operators, garage operators in the city, or is it incumbent upon the person who's parking there to notify the operator? That's what I'm not clear on.
I'm not sure, through the chair of the councilman, what you mean by notification.
So, for example, Councilman, if I may, if I live in Euclid and I park downtown, I don't qualify.
Right.
But if I live in the city and I park within a half mile, I have to tell the parking lot owner, hey, I live downtown or I live in Colorado.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, and
you have to you have to petition for the 8%, is that correct? Is that what you're?
To
Yes.
the operator,
operator,
essentially.
And what if the operator doesn't agree to that? I mean, if they're mandated, correct?
I think the operators all know about this.
Okay,
And I mean, that's kind of why it came to our attention.
right, okay.
So, yeah, and also there's a proof of residency too.
Yeah.
So the parking operator, if they're going to have a contract with the actual patron,
Okay.
then they'll make sure that, and that can be done easily
Yeah.
by requesting a
Mortgage,
mortgage
lease.
or a lease or a letter from the place of residence.
I just want to make sure that it's not oppressive and very difficult for someone who's residing in the city, who's parking on a
Right.
lot, surface lot or in a garage, that the burden falls on them and go through hoops and loops to get this,
Well, the idea is it'll be very easy to go online and get their certificate
okay.
and then present that
Okay, I
to-
guess the
Yeah.
proof will be in the pudding, and we'll see how it works. Okay,
The idea
thank
was
you.
to make this more transparent and easier for both the operators and the residents.
Right. In this process, again, this has existed. So this is not a new,
Yes.
it's just,
Yeah.
this legislation is aimed at cleaning up the process, if that's fair, Ms. O'Leary.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Bishop?
Yeah, okay, so I'm trying to understand this, like Councilman Polensek, I'm trying to understand this a little bit better. So if you live in the city of Cleveland and you come downtown and park, for instance, you don't have to pay with this certificate? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, through the chair to the councilman, it's if you are a resident that's using the parking in order to park where you live. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
So when you
I
say,
live in the city of Cleveland and I come downtown, but I have to pay the tax. But if I'm a person that is using the parking for where I live to park, like I don't have a driveway or I don't have off-street parking, downtown's the easiest example. So it's for your resident parking, where you live. Does that make sense?
If I may,
Yeah, maybe
Counselor,
you can
you have to be
explain
within a half mile of the lot or garage, your place of residence. So
okay,
me living in Ohio City, I could not utilize this to park downtown. You have to
Okay.
be within a certain distance of,
Unless you're in the downtown parking area. If you
Okay.
live in the downtown parking area, yeah.
okay, all right, thank you.
All right. Any other questions regarding ordinance number 387-2024? Seeing no other questions, ordinance number 387-2024, as amended, stands approved. That is the last piece of legislation. This committee is adjourned until the next call of the chair, next Monday, April the 22nd.